Where it dawns. Welcome to Inevitable, a weekly wisdom series. I'm Pastor Cheryl. During this series, we'll be looking at the book of Ecclesiastes, the first chapter, with selected verses. Let's read verses 3-5 for this week's conversation. What do people gain from all the hard work that they work so hard at under the sun? A generation goes and a generation comes, but the earth remains as it always has. The sun rises, the sun sets. It returns panting to the place where it dawns. As I am reading through these verses, I'm reminded of the unique positioning of the book of Ecclesiastes. It's part of the wisdom literature found in the Old Testament, along with Proverbs, Song of Solomon, which is not in the Protestant, which is in the Protestant canon, but so the wisdom of Solomon is not as part of the Catholic canon. The Psalms, the book of Job, all of these comprise what is termed wisdom literature. And wisdom literature, each one has its own unique character. The Psalms, the longest and largest book of the Bible, with 150 chapters, or divisions, and it has a range of emotional responses, of forms. It's all poetic in nature. It is considered the hymn book of the Hebrew people, and many of our songs and hymns and even contemporary music comes from the book of Psalms. Ecclesiastes is different. We don't tend to sing songs based on the book of Ecclesiastes. There aren't necessary pithy little sayings that we can just drop as wisdom nuggets like we find in the book of Proverbs. But it is a book that wrestles with the meaning of life. It wrestles with those things that wisdom needs to be sought in order to, if not fully understand, to find a level of peace, a level of acceptance. And we begin right here, the third verse of this book, with a question. What do people gain? What do people gain from all the hard work that they work so hard? How hard life is comes through. We see that immediate repetition in one sentence, the word hard and the word work paired together. All the hard work so hard. I feel like the writer of Ecclesiastes, or at least the writer of this portion, was struggling with the burden of life, struggling with how difficult life can be, with how hard you have to work just day by day. And it seems from this text that the writer is expressing the endless and unending nature of it. A generation goes, a generation comes, over and over. The earth remains as it always has. Now, with the benefit of a little historical memory and advances in our understanding of ecology and geography and cosmetology and and physics and chemistry and all those things, we know that is both true and it's not true. Right? The evolution of human beings and the evolution of life on this planet, the ebbs and flows that have happened over time, we know that that's true and it's not true. It's true in the sense that the earth in its core form has been around for millennia, for millions and millions of years. We know that it's not the same. It's not exactly as it's been. And I'm not just talking about climate change. I'm talking about just the way that creation evolves. The fact that there used to be dinosaurs walking the earth, and in the sea, that the sea creatures have evolved and changed over time. Humanity has changed. The ecology has changed. Plants and animals come and go, right? But what is true is that the earth in its form has remained, and it will continue long after all of us have gone on. I've said, as we considered climate change and sometimes the reluctance that we have, and unfortunately, in my opinion, the Christians often have expressed, some Christians, I should say, have expressed towards caring for God's creation, is that, you know what's resilient? The earth. The earth will be here. We say, we don't have to save the earth. I mean, our pursuit of slowing or eliminating or mitigating the effects of climate change really is a selfish proposition. It is a human-centered proposition, because the earth, as the Ecclesiastes writer has said, is going to be here. Whatever we do to destroy our environment, the environment that the earth creates and that has been so hospitable to us, we might not be here, but the earth will be here. We can't destroy the earth, but we can be inhospitable guests who end up destroying ourselves through inaction and the willful actions that do not contribute to making the earth whole and well. If we don't do it, God has created God's creation that the earth will do it herself. And here, and so beyond the earth, the writer talks about the sun rising and the sunset, and it returns panting to the place where it dawns. Have you ever thought about the sun as panting? I always think of the sun as having this effortless energy that it's there, it's out in the sky and it's doing its thing. And we're the beneficiaries of it. We receive light, we receive warmth, we receive the energy that the sun produces and sends our way. We don't have to do anything to earn it. We don't have to do anything to keep it coming. It is so far beyond our reach. We can't damage it. It rises and it sets. The truth is, it doesn't move. We know that the sun doesn't rise or set. It doesn't change its orientation. We revolve around it on the earth, and the earth changes its orientation to the sun. And that movement is what gives us, and the various ways of that movement give us both the change in the day, morning to evening and back, and everything in between, but it also gives us seasons, summer, fall, winter, and spring, and everything in between. The sun is the constant in this particular equation, but we know that the sun, even it, revolves around something else, that we are connected and we are related. And this idea of it panting, though, like it has expended a whole lot of energy. Now, I think the writer had a knowledge beyond their time, because the earth, the sun is full of energy, and that energy comes from within and blast out. And if we look at the surface of the sun and some of the images that we've been able to that has been captured and shared with us during this time, and I'm always excited when we talk about things beyond, out in the sky and in the universe. My first job, for those of you who don't know, I worked at NASA. He convinced me I did not want to be an engineer, but from that time, I've had a little love and fascination for the heavenly places of creation that are beyond our grasp, but we are able to glimpse into. And we know that the sun is shooting off constantly rays of energy and fire and all of these things. And it is not at all still. It is constant motion, constant renewal of energy, constant. What do we gain from all of our hard work? Here's the sun working hard. But from our vantage point, we look up and it seems like it's just chilling in the sky. It's just this point that, yeah, it rises and it sets, but it is constant from our perspective. But if we look at it from its perspective, it's working hard, expending so much energy. If we think of it like energy, like breath, then yes, it's probably panting all the time. The earth is also in motion. It seems solid beneath us, but it's, and some parts are, but it's not completely. And it's renewing and reviving, going through a life cycle over and over again, where some parts of it die and some parts of it are born constantly. And isn't that true of humanity? And isn't that true of our lives, that day by day, there are things that happen and there are ways in which things die within us. And there are things that rise within us. The setting of the sun reminds us that it will rise again. And if we look at our lives and we think about the things that happen to us that we have no control over, we can't even control our own rising and setting from a purely physical sense, life and death, right? But from a spiritual sense, from an emotional sense, intellectual, relational, communal, maybe we should consider emulating the work of the sun. Day by day, it looks like it's doing the same thing, but it's working hard. And that hard work, day by day, is producing energy, is producing light, it is producing warmth, it is producing life. And what if, even in the mundane aspects of our day, in the routine actions of our lives, if we too just decided that every moment we would dedicate ourselves, and whether we succeed or not, but that the object of our work is to produce that type of energy, life-giving energy into the world. Remembering that what the center of it and the source of it comes from that place within us from where it dawns. Where do we get our fuel? Where are our spirits revived? Where is our life and our work renewed? And where do we find our rest? All of that comes from our God, who creates, who shapes, who provides, who gives us rest, and who gives us strength in the proportions that we need, and who abides with us. So I encourage us, as we think about all the things that are inevitable, all the things that we do not control, all the things that go on from day to day and year to year and life to life, that it's not inevitable. How we approach it, how we respond to it, and how we live it. Expend so much energy on this good work. Yes, it's hard, but it's also good. And know that God will meet us when we return to that place where it dawns. Thank you for joining me for another weekly wisdom. I pray this has been a blessing to you. Please let me know if you have responses or thoughts of your own to share in the comments. Like this video if you'd like to see more of this type of content, and subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss another episode. Until next time, love God, love your neighbor, and love yourself on the journey. I'll see you next time.